Hello, everybody. This is Kal Jurdi, founder of Fearless Transformation. And for the past 15 years, I've helped hundreds of people, entrepreneurs, organizations, and teams to sell more with less time and energy and effort invested. How many of you find that when you're selling at times, you find it a little bit, unwelcoming on the other part as a prospect, meaning you find it a little bit pushy? How many of you worked with salespeople who are pushy, and as a result, you kind of like were turned off by working with them or by buying from, even that you're interested in a product or their service, but just the way they come across, it makes you feel a little bit turned off. On the other hand, you as a salesperson, how many times you felt when the time comes to speaking of money and finding out if they are willing and able to invest in your product and service, you shy away from that conversation because it's a little bit uncomfortable to talk about money. Not unusual. I used to feel the same way too. Matter of fact, a little bit of background. I didn't grow up with the richest, parents. My father was the provider. My mother was a housewife, and my dad was a hardworking man. He used to work in construction, and he provided us with everything we need to go to school and to put a roof on top of our head and not wanting or needing anything from outside. So with that, I'm very grateful. And however, during growing up, I always remembered my father worked very hard, and I used to help him in constructions during summer vacation from school, by being with him, helping him with his work. And what time specifically, I remember he was laying tile in this apartment building that he was working in. And I'm standing right there, handing him the tile, and while he's putting it on in the bathroom, it was dark, it was humid, summertime, as I said. And all of a sudden, he just stops what he was doing, and he looks at me and tells me, "Look how hard I'm working for you." He was dripping sweat. He was, kind of like in one of his hands is like there's blood coming out. I know it's a little bit intense, and he was just telling me how hard he's working to be able to take us to school and provide for us. So with that, part of me is, I sense that, oh my God, I'm causing my father so much pain and suffering to be able to take care of me. And on the other hand, I made it mean that money comes only with pain and suffering and blood and sweat, literally. So carrying this belief with me growing up, and went to the United States pursuing my degree in engineering, and after that pursuing entrepreneurship, where I used to make really good money. However, anytime when I had a chance to spend it, I used to kind of like spend it before I actually enjoy it or save it. And the reason why, because of that belief that money comes hard, and therefore I gotta enjoy it. Because part of me, as I said earlier, that I didn't feel like I'm worthy of money. So obviously not his intention. However, how many of you have grown up with a conversation of scarcity around money? How many of you heard, if you can fill in the blanks, if I say money doesn't grow on trees, right? What do you think? I'm made out of money? Save your white dollar for the black day. All these conversations that we grow up with around money. Also, you never talk about money with people. Money never is brought up to the table. So all of these beliefs has caused us as salespeople not to bring this conversation up. As a result of that, we end up, running around, providing free services, providing free advice, sending quotations to anybody who ask us for it before we qualify the prospect if they are willing and able to invest in a product or service. Matter of fact, in the Phoenician method that I've developed after many years of trying to figure out the right formula for selling, there's we come from a place we disqualify people rather than qualifying them, meaning I rather get a no rather than get a maybe. Of course, yes is what we want to hear. However, we don't get that all the time. Otherwise, that would not make any sense. So, with the money conversation, it's important that you bring that up front. And what does that mean? When we first start the meeting with your prospect, it's important upfront to ask permission if it's okay to talk about money. And that usually happens in step number 1 in the Phoenician method, which is called the pre-verbal agreement, right? The pre-verbal agreement, where you get an agreement up front that it's okay to ask about money or bring the money conversation up. And with that sounds something like this. So, Mr. Prospect, I know we have an hour here together. During this 1 hour, what would you like to hear from me so that we make sure that this time has been invested wisely? We get their agenda, we know what they want to talk about, and then, we will ask permission. So in order for me to be able to help you with what you're looking for, would it be all right if I, ask you some questions? Sometimes it will be a little bit tough questions, such as budget. Is budget off conversation, or would it be okay to talk about that? And for the most part, they would say yes. If they say no, then would it make sense to explore that more? And you would say something like, well, I understand that you're not comfortable talking about budget, and how are you planning to move forward with this project if we were the right fit? Now you'll be able to find out underneath it what's going on. So step number 1 is you want to get permission to talk about money during the meeting, so that the prospect already knows that the money conversation is going to come up during the meeting, and you are already warmed up to it, and you are ready to bring it up when time is right. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is when the money conversation come up. It comes up after you discover their pain. The pain step, which is very important to discover not their wants and not their needs, but more of an emotional need for them to do business. What is it? Why is it so important for them to solve this problem, and what is their level of commitment to solving this problem by asking the right questions? Obviously, that would be, that's covered during the Phoenician method, where how to ask the right questions, the tough questions, whatnot. However, today I just want to focus about the money conversation. If you want to know more about what to ask about, in the pain step, you can, watch the video about the pain step. And that will explain to you how to ask the right questions that will get the prospect to open up and share with you the problem. How does that impact their business, their personal level as well, their personal life, which is very important. And that's what's going to distinguish you from the traditional selling that's out there, which is features and benefits, throwing features and benefits, even though that sometimes it doesn't make sense for them. However, we're used to, as traditional salespeople, to throw a lot of features and benefits, thinking that features tell, benefits sell. And that's old way of selling. It doesn't work in nowadays, because people and prospects are more aware of pushy salespeople. They're aware of any hidden agendas. They're sensing, they're watching, and they can feel it. So therefore, instead of telling, asking the right questions to find out what their needs are, and more importantly, if they are willing and able. So with the money, when it comes to money, you want to find out if they are willing and able, right? So are they willing to invest, and are they able to invest? Some prospects, they are willing to invest with you, but they're not able. They don't have the resources. On the other hand, some prospects, they are able to invest with you. However, they're not willing to invest, to do it for whatever reason. That's where we need to explore that. So now the how to do it, basically you want to, when time comes after the pain step, it earns you the right to ask for the money, right? It earns you the right to ask for the money. And how that could happen is very simple. You can ask, so Mr. Prospect, I understand that you're dealing with problem A, problem B, problem C. It's costing you X amount of dollar, X amount of energy, X amount of time, and you're feeling frustrated working with this or trying to deal with this for this many, for this much time. Now, Mr. Prospect, have you thought of a budget to invest in solving this problem? And just pause. Whatever the awkward silence is, do not open your mouth until they answer. Now, what could they answer? Three things could come up, right? They could say, yes, I have thought of a budget, and here it is. Okay, here's my budget. Or they could say, no, I haven't, right? Or they could say, not sure, right? Not sure. It depends. How much is it? Why don't you tell me how much is it? Now, let's start with the yes is obviously easy. So now, you move forward and you know if they're willing and able, if they're qualified or not. If they say no, they haven't, then you can ask the follow-up question. I understand that's not unusual. You haven't thought about it. How were you planning on, investing in this product or service to solve this problem? Right? If they say not sure, why don't you tell me how much it costs? You can say, I'll be happy to. However, instead of me throwing some numbers at you and bring you all kind of, programs or all kind of equipment that we have, would it make sense to help me out so that I can best tailor it for what you need and what you're able and willing, and just share with me just roughly what are we looking at? How much are we looking at to invest? And notice I use the word invest versus spend because invest, there's always a return on investment versus spending, you spend it and that's it, okay? So now they would say something like, all right, here we go. Here's a number. Or, in the past, here's how much we invested, right? Another way you can deal with it, we call it the bracketing, right? So bracketing, what does that mean? Bracketing, you can say, typically when we when customers come to us, with this challenge, wanting this product, it can go anywhere from let's say $500,000 all the way down to $100,000. Where about are you? That's called bracketing. Okay, bracketing. Another way you can deal with the maybe or not sure if they're not giving you the budget. You can say something like, okay, well, I understand. Let's say what kind of cars do you like? They tell you, okay, so we got the BMW, Mercedes, we got the Nissans, and we got the Kias. Where about do you want to be? Okay. That is another way you can work with it, and that's called sectioning, right? So you can give them options with what section of their investment they want to be at, and now they can help them to share with you what their budget is. Also, another word you can use, which is called roughly round numbers. I'm not gonna hold you to it. What are we looking at in order for us to solve this problem? Okay, so roughly round numbers. Okay, what are we looking at? So these are some of the techniques that you can use in order for them to open up and share with you their number. Of course, also the third way you can do it. So you got this, you got that, you got this, and now there's one more, which we call it returning that with a question. So if they say no, not sure, I understand, not unusual. How are you planning on solving this problem? Okay, that's called, spinning. You spin it back on them by asking a question. Okay, so spinning. So there you go. You got few options now to be able to have the money conversation, but more importantly, you need to start upfront by getting permission in the pre-verbal agreement in the Phoenician method that the money conversation, is it okay to come up during the conversation, or is it off limit? And that's where you would get the initial agreement. And then after the paying step, when you find out what the problem is, how much they're is costing them, and what's the impact on their business and personal life, now you earn the right to go ahead and ask for the money. And you can ask it very simply, simple phrase, by saying, have you considered a budget to fix this problem? Simple. And zip it. Allow them to share. Don't try to anything open your mouth after that. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Just be quiet. Allow them to come up with a response, regardless of how awkward the moment is. Based on the response, whether it's a yes, a no, or not sure. If it's a yes, awesome. May you share that with me. If they said, no, I haven't thought about it, you agree with them. That's not unusual. How were you planning on, fixing this problem? That's where you're using the spinning. And if they said not sure, again, you agree with them. That's not unusual. Roughly round numbers technique, or you can give them the sections. We're talking about, do you want the BMW, you want the Nissan, you want the Kia, or you can use a bracketing, which is, it typically, when we work with customers that have similar issues that you're dealing with, it can, the investment usually typically anywhere from $500,000 to $100,000. Whereabout are you? Okay, that's the bracketing. And of course, the spinning that we talked about, which is, you spin it back to them by asking them a question that's not unusual. How are you planning on, fixing this issue? Okay, I hope that served you. Mainly and more importantly, the conversation about money starts in here. It's the programming and conditioning that you've raised up with. That's going to play a big role. So be aware of that self-talk inside here, and have the guts and be fearless in not wasting your time running around chasing and telling you that, oh, sorry, it's too much money, or we can't afford it, after you spend so much time, energy, and money and effort to try to submit a proposal or do a presentation or give them free advice. Instead, you can ask the question up front, be a little bit uncomfortable up front. However, you make it easier for you and free fall later. You'll be able to disqualify them if they are willing and able to invest with you. And with that, you are a happy camper, they're a happy camper, no time is wasted, and that is what would be much more resourceful, wouldn't it? All right, I hope that served you. Until then, be fearless, sell more, and make a difference. Cheers.